G'day guys, Mac with the Edit Circle, and in today's episode I want to reiterate some stuff that I spoke about in the previous episode on the channel where I was talking about the way blasts and templates have been absolutely neutered in this edition of the Horus Heresy. So what I've got here before you is two squads, 10 Marines in power armor, 10 Terminators in Cataphractii armor. They're all spaced apart 2 inches. In some cases it's a little bit less, but this is the 2-inch dimension across this edge here. Also have a small blast built into this. Very good little template. We'll shout out to Active Heresy guys there. So 2 inches across the board. This is a gamey layout, but it's for the purposes of the demonstration. Not everyone is going to play their army like this on the tabletop. But when you're trying to talk about how things perform in the game, well, this is a test you can replicate at home. We can show you these actual values, and then what we can do later in the episode maybe is we'll shuffle things up a bit so it's a bit more like what you'd actually see on the tabletop rather than right now where everything is very gamed out. That's the reason we're doing it this way, so don't take this as the this is how to be whack yada 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 contest. It's not. So I have the book here, and we're mainly going to be looking at this section. Specifically, we're going to be looking here, and we're going to be looking at, if I can, here. So, anyway, let's get started. So, Demolisher in the previous edition was this template. Demolisher in this edition is this template. See a difference? So, in the previous edition, this was known as a bit of a Terminator killer. In fact, it was very, very good at it, and it was good at killing Custodes as well. So this weapon here, if you place it on a model, has to have the central hole over the top of the base, okay? So it can be placed anywhere on the model as long as the hole is completely over the base. What it means is, on the average shot that you fire, you can get 1, potentially 2, I'm going to give it 2 extra Terminators, just ever so slightly touching both their edges. And this is the absolute most perfect shot. And if I space these out to be perfectly, exactly 2 inches apart, the math says that it won't touch them. I can only touch 1 and 2. So that's going to be your average shot. And with an average scatter, it's also going to be 2. In this edition, okay, 1. And with a good scatter, 2. So contrast that. Guaranteed 2, excellent scatter, mediocre scatter, okay scatter. This one, it's either 1 or 2. Any other form of scatter, if it lands there, it will actually miss everything because you have a 3-inch wide template and you have a 2, 2, 2, 2 gap. So it's actually about 3.2 inches or something between the models. Same thing with the power armor, exact same sort of spacing. The difference with power armor is because the bases themselves are thinner, the distance from the first to the third is less than the distance from the first to the third on Terminators. Pretty logical, isn't it? In any case, it's a 4 model hit with your best case scatter, or a 2 model hit with your best case scatter. That's it. So, new edition, crappy little template. What is it actually going to do on the tabletop? Well, let's go previous edition. First off, no scatter. So, it's going to hit 2 models, 2 pluses, that's 2 wounds, and that was a horrible roll. That would be 2 dead Terminators. Pretty simple. This edition, however, perfect hit. Well, it can only hit 1 model, so it's a wound, and that's very important. I rolled a 6, that's unexpected. Oh, it's a 1 in 6 chance. That means that's actually a rending shot, so this changes things completely on the maths. So, actually, it caused 3 wounds, of which 2 got through. Either one of them is enough to kill the Terminator. So 1 dead Terminator, 2 wounds caused versus 2 wounds caused. Let's see what would happen if it was in a more average roll and it wasn't rending. Okay, so now I actually didn't know it wouldn't be rending, so I should have waited till the dice rolled, so that was lucky. So it did wound the Terminator. Now the Terminator will make 3 saves, 2 pluses, and he did it. What if I rolled a fail? Okay, well, I get to re-roll it because I'm heavy. That was some damn good rolling. Those are 6s. So that is with a perfect hit. Now, what about the perfect scatter? 4 and 2. So 4. 3 wounds, 4 pluses, 1 dies. And that was, crash hot rolling, really. I didn't wound one with the template, and I managed to roll greater than 50% of my dice as saves. So, should be playing games today. I'll be winning. Now with the other 2 to wounds. All right. So we've created 3 wounds on the first guy, dies. 3 wounds on the second guy, lives, but because he's heavy, gets a reroll on his armor save, and he lives. So no deaths at all. So 1 guaranteed dead from the big blast, and another one just absolutely fine. But if he wasn't heavy, if he was a Tartarus Terminator, he would be dead, for the record. Now, what about on our infantry over here? Well, we know that our perfect scatter will net us 4. So let's start there. 3 dead guys. It's that simple. They could go to ground, that'll give them a 6-up cover save, so let's say we get our 3 6-up cover saves. And 2 of them make it because, again, I'm rolling crash hot today. That's cool. Then we've got this bad boy. So, absolute best case gets 2 of them. 1 dies. So, yeah, you can see something of a pattern forming here. Another one that people wanted to point out was, they're like, there's no way that you would only hit 3 Terminators with a Flamer template and only 4 Marines. Let's put that to the test. This is with a perfect situation. And remember, this model over here is just over, or just on actually, 1 inch away. So if this model was firing the Flamer, that's it. It's just reaching the 3rd one. And I mean, just reaching the 3rd one along the way. I guess parallax, which is where the camera is mounted up higher, and because the template is mounted up higher, it gives the illusion of gigantic Hellstorm template. So I can put it lower and put it right down to there, and you see that it's only just reaching that other Terminator. Parallax is a very interesting phenomenon. Anyway, so it is only going to be 3 Terminator models, and even if you had a torrent weapon like the Flamestorm Cannon, you can place it pretty much anywhere you like. Where are you hitting more than 3? You just can't do it. Like that's 3, that's 3. And if I try and put it in the middle, it completely misses both those 2 guys. So, very hard shot to take. And my guess was you could hit 4 Space Marines firing this same template, regular Space Marines. So, if I aim it just there, yes, it's 4. It's exactly 4, or if I aim it exactly there, it's 4. And again, torrent template only could do that. So what are going to be the outcomes? Well, Heresy version 1, we hit our 4 Marines. This is Strength 6, AP 3. So 2s, 4 dead Marines. Heresy 2.0 hits our 4 Marines. Wow. They got armor, so 2 wounds to get to make saves, and they're okay. That was an awful, awful roll. So, not very effective there. What about if that same Flamestorm Cannon hit Terminators? Well, in 1.0, it'd be 2s to wound. So, a wound. And, hey, look, it got through. Rolled incredibly low then, right? I rolled high before, I roll low now. That's hilarious. Now that same thing hits 3 Terminators in this edition. 2 wounds. 1 saved, 1 re-rollable. They're good. So you're unlikely to kill Terminators. But let's take it to an extreme. Let's say there's this template, okay? I've got 3 Predators with Flamestorm Cannons, and they get 3 perfect shots onto this squad. So that's 9 wounds on these Terminators. Let's roll it up, because rolling's fun. So 3 of them didn't wound in the first place. That's probably a little bit disproportionate. And now I have to make 6 armor saves. So 6 2+ saves, and they make them all. What if I rolled 6 ones then somehow? Well, I'd get to re-roll it, and only 1 would die, or actually take a wound, because they're 2 wound models now. And this is one of those funny situations you get into with the new edition, where you are seeing a simultaneous nerf on the power of the template. Okay, there's 3 things actually happening here at once. One is the nerf to the strength and AP of these templates and weapons. Well, actually, the strength is staying high, the AP is becoming awful. So first off, the weapon doesn't do as much damage. Then the second thing that happens is the models have a better armor save because of the heavy special rule. They're re-rolling their armor save against these things now. And then the third thing that's happening is the models have more wounds now. So you've added 3 different things that increase survivability. Do you think, as the person watching this video, that is what you would call a proportional change? I would say that is definitely not proportional in the game to how things should be. If this was a Dreadhammer siege cannon in the original game, it would be out to here, the template. It'd be an extra inch wider all the way around, so that much wider all the way around. That can hit an awful lot of guys. If you hit, say, here, for example, you're probably hitting everything. Even with a really spread out unit, so it's really strong. There's also a 4th less common factor in this edition as well that makes templates even worse again. So we've already gone through 3 ways in which these are worse. There's a 4th, and that 4th is skirmishing units. So if a unit is a skirmishing unit, we actually have to move this coherency out by another inch. Okay? So they're going to go to there, and they're going to go to there. Make sure I get this correct. So we don't need all these Terminators anymore, because this one's going to speak for itself. Even if you land a Basilisk shot or a Medusa shot onto these squads, you are perfect. Your perfect scatter is now 2 models, and with this, the distance between these models is the same as the distance of the template. So it just dropped in there beautifully. That means that it's impossible to overlap a base and be overlapping a second base at the same time. In theory, it can touch exactly from one base to another. Now, that is perfect world scenario. Absolutely perfect world, which is very unlikely. Therefore, let's give it something a little bit more realistic. So people will have that 3-inch coherency. They're just going to keep them roughly in that area. And I think your Terminator squad will look something more like that on the tabletop. That looks a lot more normal than this perfect grid pattern. So that coherency, we've got skirmish. We can go up to 3 inches apart, and I'm sitting at 2 and maybe a quarter, if that. Many of them are still at 2 inches. So you would call this a tabletop scenario, okay? Old edition, 4 Terminators when I'm dropping my shot down. This edition, still 1. Let's hope for a good scatter. What's my best scatter? I reckon my best scatter I could get is 3. And with this, I reckon the best scatter would be somewhere around the 4-5 mark. It's definitely 4. Definitely 4. Okay, it's close to getting 5 there, but just a smidge off, I think. So let's say 4 and 3 again. And that's a more concise example of what they would look like on the tabletop. We can do the same thing, obviously, with our power armored Marines. So if we go for that 3-inch skirmishing, so who thinks you're hitting something like, your Grey Slayers or whatever one of those Space Wolf units is with this template right here? You're just not, okay? Just making sure that distance is still 3 inches between each of the models. It is. So that is actually legal coherency right now. See a problem? That's your vindicator. That is 120 points right there that you are spitting out each turn. So all these people who are jumping in the comments are, my vindicator kills 5,000 models per game. I don't see how you're doing it. Okay, if anyone has got any common sense, but like, look at the size of that coherency. If you were to do something a little bit more like what you might see on a tabletop, it still would look something like that. In which case, you know, 2 there, because I put them pretty close to each other, but let's make sure they're in coherency. So there you go, okay? Most of that's around the 2-inch mark. Heck, that's 1 inch right there. Within 2 inches, 2 inches. How many models are you realistically hitting with this tiny little template? Like, if I place it down on the actual table there, so it's not up in the air giving the impression that it's a giant ordnance, because parallax, you can see that it's so small. The chances of scattering off something rather than onto something it's a game changer. And then what if we apply our torrent weapon? Well, 4 Marines was what we were getting before with perfect spacing. We're still getting 4 Marines. Do you think, I think maybe if we go this direction, we can get 5, and that's only because of how I placed them for this, perfectly for the scenario. So 5 Marines with our Hellstorm. Now, if it was the previous edition, those 5 Marines, oh look, 5 Marines just died. In this edition though, 4 wounds, and 1 died. Slight difference, isn't there, for the same price weapon? This is one of the biggest problems with Heresy 2.0, is that this was your counter to this, okay? So the reason Terminators were so scary in Heresy 1 was they would come down and they do something like a deep strike, or they jump out of a transport, and you have a pile of Terminators that have all got to be really close to their transport, okay? We'll treat this dice block as if it was a Spartan or something, okay? I do have Land Raiders. My Salamanders sitting behind me, like so. Now, they've got to all be within 6 inches of their transport. So, like I said, we can treat that as a transport there. Okay, 6 inches. Cool, you get the idea. By the way, do people like this? I put writing on the side of the vehicle. This is actually multiple different decals, Custode ones, Salamanders ones, combined together. Work in progress, don't judge me. So if this is your absolute best case, okay, hopping out of the vehicle, previous edition, holy crap, we have a turn to survive the Terminator onslaught that is coming out of this Land Raider to charge my infantry. And you could go, drop it on top. 7 Terminators. Let's say we get a perfect hit with our Vindicator. Go off perfect everything. 6 wounds. Looking bad for the Terminators here. 4 pluses, and hey, 2 died. That's pretty helpful. Alright, what if it's Heresy 2? We get our absolutely perfect scatter, or can we get 4? Not quite. So 3 it is. Wait. 4. Haha, we can get 4. 1 rending. That's the important one. So, put him aside with his 2 extra dice. And we've got 3 other wounds. So let's go through them. 1 lives. 2. Ooh, double 1s. 1 dies. 3. And our 4th, which is rendings. These are 4-ups. And he dies, so we lost 2 Terminators. So they actually both killed 2 Terminators there. But you definitely saw much better rolling on the first hit with the big template that wounded a lot more guys and just instant killed them, versus having re-rollable 2+ saves on the second batch. So in the first case, a couple of Terminators died. It buys you some room here, especially because you're going to take them from the front, the way that they're charging from the vehicle. In the second scenario, though, they can take them from wherever they like. So if they don't like this guy back here, okay, he died. Keeps that charge distance close. Not to mention the whole reaction fire and such. If you're firing a template like a flamer at these guys up close, they can respond because they get reactions. Isn't that great? Funny little thing about these Terminators as well. These are Iron Warrior ones. This is printed. I printed these. Just thought you might find that interesting, gang. So yeah, anyway, templates in 2.0, they're suffering. They're suffering badly. And what's worst of all about these is that they are disproportionately weak versus any of this stuff. But you know who they're disproportionately strong versus? Militia and Solar Auxilia. Because Solar Auxilia, they didn't get better armor saves. They didn't get additional wounds. So they die very quickly to all this AP4 stuff. Well, demolishes AP3, but, you know, whirlwinds, basilisks, medusas, flamestorm cannons, all that, just instant death, and you can't even feel no pain if you had it against these weapons as Solar Auxilia. You just die in droves. So, horrible situation we find ourselves in. Anyway, hopefully that reinforces some of what I've been talking about. And again, I'm not showing you that, oh, if you have a perfect 3-inch coherency, look how much you can spread out your units. Oh, you can just game the system doing this. No. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say be whack and spread your crap out so it's completely spread across the board per tactical squad. Because like, if you keep that spread going, look how much a space a tactical squad can take up on the battlefield thanks to a 3-inch coherency. That's what, 18 inches or something? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 12 inches plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another 5 inches. That's 17 inches at least covered that way, and another 5 inches that way. That's a huge amount of space we're taken up by a single squad, and you're trying to kill them with that. Come off it. It's just not going to happen in this edition. Even where you got like here, where the coherency is less than the 3 inches, where it's down to like 2 1/4, 2.5, something like that. You know, the space is still, it's insanely hard to hit things. And if you've got Terminators skirmishing, there are ways of doing it. I'm not going to go into that right now. Then it's just a holy crap, you know, situation. The last little point, of course, to touch on with that is, when it comes to things like vehicles, they are still being disproportionately hurt by this sort of stuff because it's high enough strength and because vehicles don't have armor saves. The low AP doesn't matter because, well, on AP2 weapons, for example, it was only on a perfect 6 that you actually did something really damaging, like blowing up the vehicle outright. But for doing hull points, stunning, shaking them, all that kind of thing, very, very easy to do with big templates in last edition. This edition, smaller templates, unless you roll a tremendously huge scatter, we're talking like double 6s, okay? So you get like an 8-inch scatter. Well, if this is a Spartan, it's very similar size to a Spartan hull. If this is our Spartan and we place it in the very center, okay, we need 6, 7, 8 inches. If it's only a 5-inch scatter, we're going to hit the vehicle from center of hull. So if it's only a 5-inch, it's going to hit the vehicle anyway. And that means you're still with the very high strength, these weapons like 12 now, you know, 2s to glance, still disproportionately strong versus vehicles. And if you fire multiple of these things, or a battery of them, and they will hit the same vehicle, then funny enough, even though they might only hit this vehicle, for some reason, that damage is going to, if it blows up this one, it's going to roll over onto the next one. Because it's sympathetic, I guess. The other vehicle is sympathetic to the first one. It dies as a show of unity. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, that's just a quick summary of what I was talking about yesterday with the blast templates, distances. It's a little bit to digest, but hopefully it's easier now that I've given you a visual representation on those weapons. So anyway, what is it we say? Jamie, bring that up on the screen so people can see. Mac with the Other Circle, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all on the next one.